WCW was interested in Chyna. And so Triple H and Shawn Michaels came across her. And that's how they talked to Vince McMahon about letting Chyna come in and be, their bodyguard or whatever. Or Triple H's bodyguard. But then, less than a year later, Triple H and Shawn Michaels will form DX anyway, because they were really good friends. But they wanted Chyna to come into WWF at the time. That's what WWE used to be called. They wanted Chyna to come in and basically be a bodyguard. And that's where she came in at. That's where she started off as Triple H's bodyguard. A female bodyguard, but she was legit, She would pick the men up. I was talking, I think in my previous or episode or two ago about intergender wrestling. Chyna was one of the first women, females I ever saw that could get in and basically, body slam a man, and she really broke a lot of ground. Women were doing that before Chyna, but you didn't see that in WWE. She was like the first female woman that would interact with the men and fight the men and be a legit threat to any man, that she got in the ring with. I remember her, obviously could list off her accomplishments. First female to enter the Royal Rumble. She will always have that. They can't take that away from her. First female to, I remember when she became the number one contender. At one time, she won a number one contender match for the WWE title, and was actually at one time scheduled to face Stone Cold Steve Austin at SummerSlam that year. I don't know if a lot of y'all remember that. And then it got taken away from her, and it went back to Triple H, and it ended up being that SummerSlam. I think it was SummerSlam 99. Was Triple H, Mick Foley, and Stone Cold Steve Austin in a triple threat at SummerSlam. But, I don't know if a lot of y'all remember, but originally Chyna was in that main event. And then, they took her out of it. I wish, that would have been very interesting if Chyna would have won the WWF title back in the day. They would have really went there and done that. Then of course, she was the first female beating Jeff Jarrett, also in 1999. Really when WWE or WWF was taking off in 1999, the middle of the Attitude Era, it really took off then, and Chyna was a big part of the Attitude Era. You can't really deny that. Whether you're a Chyna fan or you're not a Chyna fan, if you don't like her because she did adult movies, if you think WWE should never acknowledge her, and they haven't for the last 10 years or so, over 10 years, last 15 years almost, they haven't acknowledged Chyna's existence, almost like she doesn't exist anymore to them. And that was for multiple reasons, I'm going to get into that in a minute. But you can't deny that Chyna was a huge, huge part of the Attitude Era, and a part of the WWE's success at beating WCW, because I remember WCW never didn't really even have anything like Chyna. I know they try to get like a couple of female bodybuilders to come in. They had this big female bodybuilder named Asia that WCW got. It was kind of like a spoof of Chyna, but that never really, did anything. That's kind of like how TNA tries to copy WWE today. It just never really, Chyna was like one of a kind. And that's why they call her the ninth wonder of the world, This episode, that's what the title of this episode is. The ninth wonder passes away. It's because she was a ninth wonder, called Andre the Giant, the eighth wonder of the world. And then Chyna was the ninth wonder. You know, the only superstar that really could stand behind Andre the Giant as this phenomenon was Chyna. And she broke a lot of ground. Not just for females in wrestling, but just for wrestling in general. So, you know, in the history, if you're going to do a history of the WWE and you mention the Attitude Era, which, you know, of course everybody will mention the Attitude Era because to a lot of people it's the number one, you know, time in wrestling. So you gotta talk about Chyna. I did a report on the Attitude Era on WWE versus WCW back in the day when I was in high school, and I was like a senior, I think. And yeah, Chyna was part of that report. I remember that vividly. I remember, you know, having a poster with Chyna on it, and yeah, Joanie Laurer, she's gonna be missed by many, many people. And I know Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, aka Dude Love, Mick Foley, was very, very close to Chyna. Was like one of his best friends in wrestling, you know, and he posted this long, hold on, I'm gonna pull it up and read it real quick, because I thought it was very, very touching. You know, Chyna and Mick were very, very close for many, many years. Okay, I pulled it up. I'm gonna read this. This was what Mick Foley posted on his Facebook about Chyna. Goodbye, Joanie. My heart is aching. My eyes are swollen from crying, having just talked to Joanie Laurer's manager, Anthony Anzaldo, on the phone, and been told that Chyna, the ninth wonder of the world, was no longer with us, gone and only 45. I will always be grateful for the friendship I shared with her, but particularly so for the kindness she showed my children, especially Noelle when she was younger. Taking her by the hand at WWE events in the late 90s, off to have her makeup done, her fingernails painted, bonding time between big, strong Joanie and her tiny sidekick. A father doesn't forget that type of kindness. I didn't know whether to post a classic photo of Chyna in her WWE prime or of Joanie from the last time I saw her about 10 months ago at a convention on Long Island. I went with a photo from the convention because of the emotion, because it was taken at the exact moment I saw her for the first time in many years. I was told later that Joanie wasn't sure how I would react to her, and that it meant a great deal to be accepted. Like I said, a father doesn't forget. I called home on my way back from the convention, only 40 minutes from my house. I'm bringing a friend over to watch the pay-per-view, I said to my wife. Who's that? My wife asked. Chyna. Chyna? Yeah, Chyna. And that was pretty much that. A mother, you see, doesn't forget the kindness shown to her child either. I am so glad we had that night with Joanie. A night to let her know how much we cared about her, whether it was politically correct or not. A night to let her know we loved her and always will. R.I.P., my dear friend. I pray that somehow in death you can find the peace that eluded you so frequently during the latter years of your remarkable life. And that was what Mick wrote on his Facebook about Chyna. And wow, you know, that was his very, very close personal friend. So like I said, regardless of how you feel about Chyna, you know, a lot of people cared about her. A lot of the wrestlers that we are fans of, they've lost somebody that was very close to them. Because you gotta think, you know, she was in WWE from 1996 until 2001? So that's how many years? Do the math on that. That's 5 years? She had a good 5-year run in WWE. So for 5 years, for probably over 300 days out the year. She was on the road with these people. So they probably consider her a family member. How can you not? You're around these people more than your own actual family. I know she was estranged from her real family, so they were her family. And kind of when she got released from WWE, she kind of got estranged from that family. So I think it meant a lot to her when she met up with Mick Foley last year, and he accepted her, and they watched the pay-per-view together and posted pictures. I remember that last year, and I thought, wow, that's kind of cool that Mick still is, even though he does stuff with WWE, he's still hanging out with Chyna. At that time, they were really trying to distance themselves from Chyna, not just because of the porn either. It also should be mentioned that Chyna and Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, or whatever you want to call them, they were in a relationship almost the entire time she was with WWE, from 96 until she left. They were in a relationship. They were together. They were a couple. And sometime towards the end of that, Stephanie McMahon became Hunter's on-screen wife. They did a storyline where Stephanie and Triple H were married, but it was just a storyline at that time. Towards the probably 99, 2000s, it was just a storyline. But somehow during the storyline, Triple H and Stephanie fell in love in real life, or that kind of thing happens. It's happened in wrestling more than one time. It happens in real life where you might be, come on, let's be real. Let's not flex or front. How many times has that happened to you where you're in a relationship with somebody and you work with somebody else, and then the person that you're working around, you might start to have feelings for them, or they'll start to have feelings for you, and then you end up breaking up the relationship that you're in with, and maybe you and your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever going through issues and having problems, and then the other person that you're working with, you just click with them, and so you start to fall for another person. It happens all the time. I don't see why people act like it's such a controversial thing. They say that Stephanie McMahon stole Triple H from Chyna, which I don't really think that's what happened. I'm not going to say that's what happened. I wasn't there personally. All I know is the stuff that I know. But I can see how, people, they kind of tossed Chyna to the side, and then they got rid of Chyna because they were wanted to be together and he had to get rid of her. I don't really think that's what happened. I just think it was a simple case of falling in love with somebody else, and then Chyna wanted to go off, and Chyna wanted to leave WWE anyway. Back in 2001. Probably had a lot to do with Triple H going and being with Stephanie. But also, I think she wanted to branch out and do stuff on her own. And, WWE was restricting her. And that happens to a lot of superstars. They end up wanting to leave WWE. So she did leave to go off. And the Hollywood career that, she was supposed to get, she got the Playboy deal before she left the WWE. I think that was in 2001 when she was on the cover of Playboy. And really, her career was supposed to blow up, after that, and it never really did for real. And so a few years after that, I guess Vivid or one of these porn companies offered her, a pretty good amount of money to come in and do adult movies to do porn, and she didn't turn it up. A lot of people weren't turning it up. I can't really judge her for that.